Regardless religion, your status, your goals is where everyone grows from what everyone knows.
Sistah Chat Radio, turn us on, enjoy the show. Nourishing for your soul.
Your purpose, your passion, yes, we can discuss. Designed just for you, yeah, you can trust us.
And welcome to Sistah Chat on WSMR 100 FM. We are so happy to be here this evening, and we have an amazing show planned for you. But before we get started, I'm going to introduce myself, and all the sisters are going to introduce themselves. I'm Sarah Smith-Katz, a.k.a. Lady Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. I am Deborah Kofer, aka Mama C, and welcome. Glad you all have chosen to join us tonight.
On this cold
Oh
night.
my God. I was like, just the thought of coming out of the house, I was cringing.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jennifer Newland over here with my little problem happened this week. Found out I have a broken shoulder, but we're getting through it, and I want to thank Sarah for putting on my headphones.
Yeah, it's quite all right. Anytime, anything for a sister.
That's right.
The
absolutely.
sisterhood is strong.
We have Holly back there doing her producing job, and we also have Chanel Diane on the keyboard. If you are messaging in, you're going to have either Holly or Chanel answering you back. So, please feel free to chime in and join in, because we've got a really interesting show this evening. We also have Alex here, our new Mr. Sistah. So we want to welcome him back because he's been off for a couple weeks. And we've got lots to talk to you about this evening. If you wanted to be part of the United Way shoebox and you think it's too late, it's not, because guess what? I collected this one this evening from one of our sisters, Peggy Conklin. She said, "Oh, I've got a shoebox for you." I think this is a shoebox on steroids because
it
it's
is super
just
Yes, it is.
amazing.
Super size.
So I guess this is a boot box, but some lucky mom, single mom from the area is going to be receiving this as part of the United Way initiative to
Awesome.
do something nice for single moms on Valentine's Day. So if you're interested, they are still looking for 20 shoe boxes that would contain, personal items or whatever. We will put the information up on our Facebook page. So please make sure to go on Sistah Chat Radio. If you have not joined our Facebook page, please like it and join us. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. So please, go on and follow us, because that's how you're going to find out what the sisters are doing.
Absolutely.
We also want to say thank you to our amazing sponsor, Brokers Realty, they are just always there for us, and they have been since day one. So we want to say thank you so much to John and Betty Rainville. We also want to let you know that if you were interested in being part of the Lehigh Valley Health Network Challenge, please, it is not too late, right?
Yes, we are getting together again with Dr. Tangoran. 6 o'clock next Tuesday. It's every second and fourth Tuesday of the month through June.
So February 12th is the next one.
February 12th is the next one. 6 p.m. at the ESU Abeloff Entertainment, or Abeloff Auditorium. There we go.
Right.
And you
And
and
it is
Alex,
entertainment.
I'm sure, because Dr. T, if you're out there listening, we love you, and we're so proud of all that you do for the community, because it is free.
It is absolutely free to the community, which is amazing that Lehigh Valley Health Network sponsors this. There's about 150 people that come to this healthy lifestyle challenge. And it's not only learning about weight, it's learning about loving yourself. It's about motivation. It's about inspiring each other.
Absolutely.
We all belong to this private healthy lifestyle challenge Facebook group, and all day long people are just motivating each other and supporting each other. It's really great.
And to have a group.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and to have a group that you can interface with and, share that level of camaraderie with, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we all understand each other from the same level.
Yeah.
So
Good.
Jen and Alex are going to be there. So we're going to, if you're interested in meeting, part of our team, please make sure to get there. February 12th is the next one. It's not too late to join, and tell Dr. T we said hi. We also want to let you know that we have the upcoming tea on May 4th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort. We are now selling tickets, so it's $35 per adult, $25 for kids, and if you would like a table of 8, it is $250. And honestly, we are just really starting to sell tables at this point. So if you're interested in coming to the tea, please make sure to reach out soon. We have limited vendor tables left. The vendor tables are $50. If you're interested, please reach out to Holly through sistahchatradio@gmail.com and let her know that you are interested in coming and being a vendor. So it's going to be too late pretty soon, so don't dawdle. We are always looking for sponsors for Sistah Chat. So that means whether it's Sistah Chat Radio, the show, or if you are interested in being a sponsor of one of our events, please reach out to us again at sistahchatradio@gmail.com. You can contact me. I will come out and personally visit you and have a conversation about what it means to be a sponsor and give you all kinds of options. Holly and I just went and spent some time at Silverback Distillery, and it was such a great time. And they're actually going to be hosting one of our upcoming card exchanges for Get Seen in the Poconos, so we are looking forward to that. But we had the best time just going and testing of a few things and getting to know the owners, and then we do this. We actually talk about you on the radio. So, make sure to reach out to us if you are interested in being a sponsor of Get Seen in the Poconos or Sistah Chat Radio. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Well, I think that brings me to this interesting part of the show.
I hope.
And we want to say hello to Mike. He's our state representative and author, Mike Schlossberg. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Very good. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your book, but we're also going to talk a little bit about you. So I understand you went to Muhlenberg
I did.
and Lehigh.
I did. Got them both.
We've got some folks in the room that all went to that same consortium, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a great group of schools in the Lehigh Valley. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am. I always laugh about it because I sort of wear a couple of hats. My full-time job is serving as a state representative in the 132nd District in the City of Allentown and South Whitehall Townships. I live in Allentown, not too far from here. It's only about 45 minutes. I'm married. My wife, Brenna, is a teacher. I have a son named Oren. He's 7. My daughter, Ayla, is 6. If anybody watching knows where I got those names from, you get bonus points. So that's my full-time job. I love it. I'm very lucky. In an effort, I guess, partially to keep myself sane and to have a creative outlet, I've always been a writer. And I'm lucky that I've written 2 books. First one was a nonfiction one called Tweets and Consequences, how to not ruin your career on social media, and was specifically about politicians who did terrible things on social media, which is a different story.
Yeah.
Not related to the president. I wrote it before Donald Trump became president. And I always joke, everything I said in the book is wrong. You can ignore it completely because he does it on a regular basis, and it still works for him. That's a different story. My second book, which came out about 8 months ago now, is called Redemption. That's a science fiction, young adult, mental health related book, and it's based partially on my own experiences. So for the past 4 years, I've been pretty public with my own battles with depression and anxiety. I've had both of them probably all of my life, and I've used my role as a somewhat public figure and this book as well to try to destigmatize the issue of mental health and try to bring it more into a public conversation. We don't treat or view mental illness the same way we do physical illnesses. You don't even blink about saying, I broke my shoulder skiing. Then there's no reason you should do the same. You shouldn't treat depression, anxiety, addiction, any number of mental illnesses the same way.
Absolutely, I agree.
So that's what I spend a lot of my time talking about. It's really what my passion is, and something I use in my role as a public official, but also as part of this book.
Well, and I was lucky enough to be able to read this book, and you know, Mike, that I've been chomping at the bit for months to have you here to interview
and
you.
I'm appreciative
because I really have some questions.
All right. And that's what I'm here for.
Great.
And I really like the fact that this book is bringing to the forefront the issue of mental illness. You know, I mean, like you, I think I began writing. I've always been, as a kid, as a teenager, I wrote all my girlfriends' love letters to their boyfriends. So actually, their boyfriends were in love with me, not them, you know? But, you know, I've been writing for quite some time, and I used it as a vehicle for helping myself. And when I started writing books, it really was to help me to grow out of this place of depression and get control of it, you know? So, I mean, there are things that we can do, but we've got to be willing to acknowledge that we have a challenge, that a mental health challenge that we are willing to deal with, not hide in the closet or allow somebody to demean us because we have, we suffer from depression or anxiety. And I've had anxiety and depression, and, you know, so, you know, the bottom line here is, in this world we live in, it's very difficult for, you know, everyone not to have at least one of those things going on.
Yeah, well, it's literally 1 in 2 Americans have at some point in their life suffered from mental illness, and 1 in 5 do on an active basis. I mean, it's mental illness is something that touches so many more than I think most people realize, because we all keep it buried. We all keep it inside of a closet and don't talk about it. And that's partially what I've been trying to do, to encourage people to talk about it, to deal with it. And I will say, on a personal level, once I started talking about my own issues, it was deeply freeing. It's like this burden is off. Like, oh, wow, I can just tell everybody exactly who I am, and it doesn't matter at all.
Absolutely. I so agree with you. I mean, I think hiding it only forces us to suppress. And I think suppression is one of the most self-destructive things you can do. You know, I'm really about expressing how you feel, how I'm feeling, and, you know, just getting my feelings out there and not locking them inside of me. And I think that's what a lot of people who suffer from depression do. They lock those feelings inside of them. They feel ashamed, or they feel guilty, or they feel like there's something wrong with them, rather than tackling it, you know, right from the core root of the situation.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, the name of your book is called Redemption. So tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, what age group is this book good for?
I would say, I mean, honestly, 12 and up. There's nothing in the book that somebody hasn't seen in a PG-13 movie.
Okay.
That's the best way that I can put it. And certainly any 12-year-old watching TV has seen anything that's in the book. I would say it's kind of targeted at that demographic. Though one of the things, I wrote it from the perspective of, I want this to be interesting to somebody, regardless of whether or not they've had personal experience with mental illness.
Right.
One of the things that people say to me when they buy it, and you could get it on Amazon, you could get it from me directly, you could get it from my website, which is MikeSchlossbergAuthor.com, for those of you who are listening. Good plug. One of the things that people, as they bought it from me, have said is, I should really get this for my son, my nephew. It's like, I've had a lot of adults buy it for somebody younger so they can get a better understanding of what mental illness is, regardless of whether or not that younger person had gone through the experience or not. And I've been flattered that I've had a lot of people who have suffered from depression or anxiety tell me that the experience kind of hit home for them, that reading it. I mean, it's pretty easy to write an anxiety attack when you know how terrifying they can be.
And I have to tell you, the one thing in the book was that was extremely real. But really, it starts off, and if you can tell us, just don't give away a lot of the plot, but if you could tell us just a little bit. I mean, it starts off with 20 people waking up in
a spaceship. And that's the easy part. The central plot of the book is 20 teenagers aged 16 to 20 wake up in a spaceship. They have no idea how they got there, why they're there, and they eventually figure out that they have to save the world from a deadly disease that's rampaging its way through the planet. I mean, that's the plot in a nutshell. The book is from the perspective of the main character, Ash, who's a 20-year-old who, as I said, suffered from depression and anxiety issues. Now, he, because of the way the situation of the book lays itself out, basically becomes the captain of the ship. And so he has to command this crew. He has no idea how they got there, why they're there, who to trust, who to like on board the ship, who to deal with there while saving the world from this disease and while suffering from depression and anxiety.
So my big question is, if you could show everybody the front cover of the book.
Ta-da.
Okay, so first big question. who is on the front
It's
cover
not
because
me.
it looks like you.
And I get that. I get that a lot, and I understand that completely. But it is not me. It is just a generic. It was come up. I work with a small press out of Las Vegas called Elijah Press. Their designer wrote that. It is not me, and you're like the 10th person to ask that. The guy had never even seen a picture of me. I don't think. Maybe he had. I wonder if he did that. I'm going to have to ask him that because I've never actually brought it up with him, but it's not supposed to be me at least.
But it really does.
It does from the
resemble you.
back. Yes.
And then the other big question I have, does Ash resemble you?
Yes.
As coming from, the mental health perspective, puts the leadership role. How does the character relate to you?
I think the character is me if my life had taken a different path, obviously minus the space part. Obviously the book goes into his backstory. He's a 20-year-old depressed college dropout. And for me, and for a lot of people actually, my depression issues really exploded my freshman year of college. And I was lucky I got the help I needed. Had my life taken a different turn, had that help not been available, I'm sure I would have wound up dropping out because I could barely function at my worst. Wow. So that is more or less where Ash, the main character, is in his life. And I think the character is based off of me to an extent. And I think it's an alternative version of me. That's the best way I can put it.
Wow.
All right. And other characters in the book, do they lend to other people in your life?
I think the main female lead, Alexis, is definitely partially based off of my wife and my daughter. Very strong-willed, stubborn, will punch you in the face. That is both my wife and my daughter.
Sounds
no doubt.
like the women in my family.
Well, and it's good. Maybe that's why you folks invited me on here. But,
So why sci-fi?
Sci-fi lent itself to some opportunities that I didn't think I'd be able to find in another genre. The strange thing about the plot actually is, like many, I started writing when I was a kid. The first thing I ever wrote was a fanfic of Star Wars when I was in 8th grade. It was god awful, but I always liked sci-fi. I had this idea 20 years ago for a book when I was more actually, and I even wrote a few paragraphs of like, okay, this is stupid, moving on, minus the mental health component. So I was thinking about writing fiction, and I remembered this plot. And I said to myself at the time, it's actually kind of interesting, but I really do want to fold in something mental health related. That's where I was at that point. When I wrote this, I went, oh, what if I could? All right. And I kind of started writing. Sci-fi, I've been unpleasantly surprised. I've only found one other book, really, that touches on sci-fi and mental illness. And I think that's a missed opportunity because you could do so much in sci-fi. The neat thing about sci-fi is sci-fi, in my opinion at least, is not supposed to be about spaceship and lasers and gravity and all that nonsense. I think sci-fi can present humans with unique situations and then allow them to grow and develop, and that's what the best sci-fi is. It allows you to make really good statements about human nature and politics and a whole slew of other things in a more unique way than maybe you could in a more traditional genre.
Well, and you talked
Awesome.
about climate change, and you talked about viruses, and you talked about global domination of corporations and pollution.
You can see my political
were-
leanings filter in at points, definitely.
There was so much that you talked about, but the mental health really was a very constant, through the book. And I have to say, I am not a Star Trek or a Star Wars, fan. So when we were going to read this book, I was like, sci-fi. Oh, I'm not so sure. And that I've become a great fan of this book.
And I appreciate it.
It was really great to read it, and the technology that you talk about too in the book. You talk about old school, you talk about new school, you talk about futuristic stuff.
Yep.
So incorporating that too, how did you learn all of that stuff too that you put in was so detailed?
Part of it was just, the future stuff is obviously made up. It's my guess about where technology is going. The back stuff I got the biggest kick out of, as talking about previous technology. And again, I don't want to give away too much about the book, but there's past technology that's involved on the ship for a reason. And I got a big laugh out of that part because it kind of forced me to revisit my own childhood and teenage years. I make a reference at one point on a character's like, oh, I know what that's like. It's like in the game X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And unless you were a massive Star Wars nerd, which I was in 8th grade, again, that's a reference that'll slip by. But if you get it, if you kind of know what that is, hopefully it gives somebody a laugh. I like to think of that as an Easter egg.
Tell us a little bit about What brought you into the political arena?
Masochism. I'm a masochist, and I really like to cause a genuine belief, and that question actually does connect with this a little bit. A genuine belief that you can do great things in government and in public service. I think most people are put into their political career or are put into their careers by a desire to do good. Everybody thinks about the money and prestige and all that, but you want to do something good. I came to the conclusion in like middle school and high school that you could do really good things in politics and in government. So that's kind of where I went. As I started talking about myself with mental illness, as I started examining my own experiences, how they could affect others, came to the conclusion that this really was my passion. I've worked on mental health related legislation and all of that. But I wrote the book not only for myself, certainly for myself and for the experience of writing, but also to do good. I mean, to try to touch people who have gone through this experience, who know what it's like to suffer. And that's all. It's connected by a genuine desire to try to help people, and that's where I've gone with my life.
Well, one of the things that we skipped over in the very beginning was that you are the youngest person to ever have served on the Allentown City Council.
Yep. That's where I was before a state representative.
So
yeah.
how old were you when you actually got into politics?
I started working in politics when I was probably like 21 or so. It's funny because I went to Muhlenberg College in Allentown. I couldn't wait to get out of Allentown, and then I interned for the woman who's I wound up succeeding in the House. Her name's Jennifer Mann. She's a good friend and a wonderful person. Mm-hmm. And while interning there, I got to experience Allentown. And that's when I was like, wow, I actually really like it here. And I got to know what her office did and see the good in it and made the decision from there to stay. I ran for Allentown City Council when I was 25, and I was I sworn in at 20? Yeah, I was sworn in at 26, actually. So that's a part-time legislative job, and it was a really good experience, especially for what I do now.
You've also had some awards.
I have.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about those and how you feel that you earned them?
The one, and I've been lucky that I've been awarded a lot of things for specifically related to my job or mental health. The one I would say that means the most is one I got from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And that was, they awarded me their Allies in Action Award, which for in 2016, it was interesting because I hadn't even passed any legislation yet. I have now, but yet related to suicide. But the organization was appreciative of me using my personal experiences to try to destigmatize the issue and get more people into help. And that, again, passing legislation is hard. Getting money allocated for funding is hard. Putting together programs is hard. But the one thing that's easy is me opening my big mouth. And I've used my big mouth to try to talk about this issue. And that's why I was given that award. And that's why it was so meaningful. And it was also a national award. So that felt really good to get. And it just gave me an opportunity again to talk about mental illness and to try what I try to do with mental illness, not only talking about myself for a second, but destigmatize it and encourage others to talk about their own experiences. Because, people, when celebrities or politicians talk about mental illness and their own experiences, that's important, it's good, it's necessary, but it's not as powerful as a regular human being saying to their friend, I got my psychiatrist appointment today. That's a normal person talking to their friends has more power than my words ever will. And so that's what I try to encourage people to do, to talk about themselves with it.
So what made you want to, come out and start telling the public about your own struggles?
A suicide and a Facebook status. I started this in August of 2014, and it was when Robin Williams killed himself. And there were a lot of people, I've had this conversation with a lot of folks who have replicated the experience, who, when Robin Williams killed himself, you think, how can somebody who's that funny and who had that much money and had that much help, how could he do that? And if he could do it, what's to say it won't be me? And I was really affected by it, and I know a lot of people who were. But later that day, I was putzing around on Facebook, and there was some guy whose name I don't know. I hit the defriend button on the spot. There was some guy who said something to the effect of, so sad Robin Williams killed himself, he just didn't have enough faith in Jesus. And I was like, no. No, actually, what I said was words I don't want to say on camera, but with 4 letters, a lot of them. But
lots of exclamation marks.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at it going, how could anybody really be this stupid? And it was a clarifying moment because there's millions of people who don't know that. So I was furious, and I fired off a couple angry Facebook statuses, and I said to my wife, I think that this might be a good opportunity for me to talk and for me to say, talk publicly about my own experiences. And she said, that's a great idea. And I woke up the next day and like 5 in the morning wrote 700 words that I sent to the Morning Caller paper about, this is who I am, probably who you are, and we need to talk about this more. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then from there we were off to the races. So that was it. It was a suicide and an angry Facebook status. And that ultimately led to this. I don't know who that idiot was, but God bless him, because he really helped me find a way to do some good.
And you obviously got positive feedback from you talking about this because you're continuing to do so.
I can't get over, and to this day, it was funny. So I wrote the op-ed, I sent it to the Morning Call, and I'm filled with righteous anger. And they called me up a couple hours later and said, we love it, we're gonna submit it. And I had spoken with my staff, and they had massaged my angry words into something a little bit more coherent. And he said, we're gonna publish it later today. I was like, oh, okay, great. Oh God, what did I do? And just massive, like, oh my God. So, and I said to my friends, have I lost my mind here? They're like, no, you got this. This was right.
Absolutely.
And I didn't realize it at the time, because then it occurred to me after it was too late, like, oh God, how's this going to affect my career? And the answer was so overwhelmingly positive, I never anticipated it.
So what was the reaction of the community?
Thank you for your bravery. That was one. And I'm sitting, and it didn't feel brave, and I get it, it was, but like, it was just like, it wasn't brave, it just kind of had to be, but the reaction was me too. Or my son, my brother, that was the reaction. And from my colleagues, and then I had a lot of lobbyists who said, like, look, if this is you, we've got good pieces of legislation. Lobbyist is not a dirty word, by the way, so we have good pieces of legislation we'd like to work on. And it's the best thing I've done in my career, in my professional life.
So talk to us a little bit about the legislation that you've been working on and put through, because it is part of mental health.
The biggest,
correct?
Yes. I've this session, or last session now at this point in particular, I had a little bit of success passing 2 pieces of anti-suicide legislation. One would require the construction that PennDOT consider adding fencing on suicide hotspots. Suicide often is it's a tragedy of means and opportunity. If you can stop somebody from having access to the means to kill themselves, you might be able to save their life and prevent a terrible impulsive decision. And there are bridges that become suicide hotspots. In Allentown, we had the 8th Street Bridge. They added fencing to it, and they added fencing. We lost 12 people a year, one a month.
Until that time.
Until they added the fencing.
Right, right.
And then there hasn't been a suicide there since. Now, have some of those suicides occurred elsewhere? Undoubtedly. But there are studies that show that if you add fencing or if you reduce access to firearms, you can cut down on suicide.
Yeah.
And I also passed a piece of legislation that created an incentive for colleges to create and disseminate information about mental health and suicide prevention plans and resources on campus. College can be a very vulnerable time.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, well, and it was for me. So we created this suicide prevention certification for colleges. So I wanted to require all colleges to have it, but the appetite wasn't there, so we went this route. And it was a compromise, but a good one.
So how do you feel when people say, try harder, just get over it, you're fine, you'll get through it, no big deal?
It's a common response, and it's often one based on a lack of understanding about what depression is. And there is a difference between like being down for a couple days and real clinical depression. Real clinical depression impedes your functioning, like you can't do things over a long extended period, usually a couple weeks or more at least. And that's something, you can say to somebody, hey, look, I know that you're down. Why don't you try to do something else a little bit? And that's, as long as you're supportive, it's okay, but you can't, if it's real depression, you're not powering your way through. That's not a thing. It may go away on its own, but you'll endure a lot of unnecessary pain along the way, especially if you don't seek help.
And if you feel that you're in true crisis, there are crisis intervention numbers. There's 911 and there's also 211.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get either emergency help or to get community resource help. So you've got 911 and 211 out there for everybody.
And it's so important to have a supportive network of people in your life. I think when I went through one of the most difficult depressed times in my life, I could barely get out of bed. And I didn't want to talk. I'd withdrawn from everybody. I didn't want to talk to people.
Yeah, that's depression.
And I had 2 very good girlfriends who would call me. I to this day, I think they synchronized to make sure that
that's pretty normal, actually.
That to make sure I was okay. But they kept me talk. They would call and keep me talking, and so that I wouldn't go
great.
deeper and deeper
Yeah.
within myself. So it's so important that you have genuine, loving people around you.
Yeah.
When you're going through a depressed state, a period of time in your life.
Yep.
And we also, Holly is giving us the cue. We want to give the suicide hotline. It's 1-800-273-8255. If you feel in any way, or you feel that there is somebody out there who needs help, again, 911-211, or the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255.
And your conversation brings to mind a question that I have, because when you're in college, parents can go one way or another way.
Yeah,
They can
you can
be really
helicopter or bail.
supportive, and so did you talk to your family
did.
about your depression, and how did they react to that?
I mean, I have a family history of it, so they were supportive. They understood, and they reacted just by being there and by trying to talk me through the worst moments. Again, I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a supportive family. I had family that had been through that experience, that understood what I was going through, that knew me well enough to know that if I could just get past the first few weeks, be it with friends or counselors or whatever, I'd be okay. And they were right. Now, that was the beginning of real clinical depression for me. But again, they were supportive. When they told me to go to the counseling center, when my counselor recommended that I see a psychiatrist to get on antidepressants, they took me there. But I was lucky. Not everybody's that lucky.
You're
That's
absolutely
right.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize the stressors that young college students go through.
Yep.
And as a mom of a college student, I definitely can see, how it could be that turning point of where you become depressed
Yeah.
because the classes are overwhelming, or you don't have friends, or whatever it may be. So, I have to urge parents out there that if your young people, whether they're high school, whether they can be any age, if they are exhibiting any sort of signs that they're, not feeling like themselves, that they are acting depressed, whether they don't want to get out of bed, or, they're changing their routine. I would really urge you to, please be supportive of them, get them the help that they may need.
Absolutely.
Sarah. And it's important for parents to understand that going from adolescence to young adulthood
That's hard
is a
enough.
traumatic experience,
Yeah.
because now you're out in this big old real world. You don't have your parents to make the decisions for you. You now have to make decisions you never had to make for yourself. And so, it's so important that, you keep an eye on them. My oldest granddaughter is in college now, but she comes home. We talked her into not going away, but staying closer, because she was only 17 years old.
Yeah.
So when she comes home every Thursday night, and she's with us till Sunday. We watch, we pay attention, because we do have a family history of mental illness.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that she's okay, so that after she graduates from 2 years, maybe she's ready to go on to Atlanta, to Clark, where she really wanted to go and was accepted.
Yeah.
So, I think, parents have to be very wise in their understanding of what's going on with their children once they go off to college, because it's a whole different world.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, you have to be loving and understanding,
Absolutely.
because it really takes a whole lot of that when,
Yes, it does.
when you have young people in college. So, I mean, as I said, we all actually have kids in college. Holly, not quite. She has a high school
Soon.
student. But, it's a lot for the parents, and it's a lot for the student.
Absolutely.
So
Wait.
go
Go ahead.
So your two books, very, very, very different.
Nonfiction and fiction. Yeah.
Yeah. So why the switch between the two? I mean, you are, at least as far as I see, you are a social media guru. If there is somebody out there who knows anything about social media, I mean, you really know how to utilize.
what's
it
your
to its
favorite form?
full
I use
potential.
Facebook and Twitter probably. I know I should be on Instagram more. Instagram is the nice thing about Facebook and Twitter is it's really easy to have a conversation with somebody.
Yes, it is.
Instagram I think gets really, really self-centered, and I have a hard time with it. But the reason that it was where I was in my career. I was doing social media consulting and development. I got into politics, I was like, wow, these people really ruin their careers. Wait, I know. This is, as I've talked more and more about depression, anxiety, and mental illness in my public life, this became something I was passionate about and wanted to discuss. Yeah.
So last week we had Greg Pershin on from Gap Systems to talk about like internet security and safety and social media. And what's your take on teenagers being on social media, security for and safety and all of that?
The security stuff worries me. What worries me more with teenagers and social media is the extremely negative impact it has on development and mental health. It absolutely terrifies me. And there's a lot of studies that show how self-centered it can make you, how bad at relationships. You have too many people relying too much on their phones and not enough on face-to-face interaction, which is then both a result of and a cause of depression. I really worry about this generation and their over-reliance on technology. And I know it makes me sound old, but it scares the heck out of me.
Well,
But it's
instead of
true.
having, face-to-face conversations like we're having tonight, you're having it through a machine.
Yep.
And I think that takes a lot of, you've got to use emoticons today to get across your emotions instead of being able to hear it in somebody's inflection.
And that loses a lot of the ability to become good at reading people, and that'll have a negative impact on personal relationships and career skills down the line.
So
that
what
stuff
would
scares
you
me.
recommend to parents?
Wait as long as you can on social media use and monitor, and then try to teach kids that especially teach kids that what somebody sees on social media is not who they are in real life. That that beautiful selfie where everything comes together perfectly. It took 100 pictures and a filter and photo editing. We have to teach kids to see that this is an illusion. It's what other people want to see, not who other people really are. And they have to be able to recognize that.
Absolutely. And they have to be in tune with who they are. And I think that begins with the parents helping them to understand that. I have a 14-year-old granddaughter. And one of the things I said to her, I think it was yesterday, is because she's very intuitive. And I told her, pay attention to your intuitions, and you're good. You have abilities that a lot of people don't allow anyone to strip that from you or take it from you. Trust your instincts.
Absolutely.
So then we segue into this book, the second book, and it's a trilogy.
Yes, it is.
So this is just the beginning.
It is.
So is
this
it
was
going to
one.
be the same characters? It's going to continue.
Yes.
And when is the next one coming out?
The next book
Because
2 is in
I'm
rewrites. Book 2 is in rewrite / editing. I'm working on smoothing it out a little bit. I hope a year. Book 3, a rough draft is completed, but it's got a long way to go. So I'm hoping for book 2 in the next year or so.
So you call it the Spades trilogy.
Yep.
Why?
Oh, Spades is it's the deadly virus that's killing everybody.
And why did you call it Spades?
Sounds sinister.
Oh, okay.
Basically, and also it's a space book, so the S hit, and you read the spades. It's the shape of the molecule, and so it sounds sinister and pointy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's nothing else to it.
And talk a little bit about the depression and the anxiety and the panic attacks that happen in the book. What's the triggers, and how do the characters then especially with Ash relate to that? And
some of the characters do relate, some don't. I tried to make that real to real life, and all different characters also have had different experiences with anxiety and with depression and with trauma. I try to, in some of the instances, it makes perfect sense why Ash would have an anxiety attack. In other instances, and since you can see the way he's thinking, you follow the train of thought, but you also realize from an outside perspective that, wait, that wouldn't give me an anxiety attack, and I hope that's the point. I hope that gives people a better idea. Like, sometimes these things happen for complete real reasons. If I was sucked into a spaceship, I would totally freak out as well. I think most of us would. But and it also has different people reacting differently. Some people handle it very well and they're ready to go. Other people absolutely freak out.
so are they victims or heroes?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I was ready for that.
Yeah, yourself, honestly.
Well, and I mean, you definitively see that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much in between their relationships and the conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just putting any random 20 people together, now you're on a spaceship.
Yep.
There is a whole lot of emotion there in that book.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. And that was definitely the point. I try to give as many perspectives as possible.
you touched a little bit on the social media and the technology that within the book. Tell us, how did you come up with like all the new technology? Is it something that you imagined? Is it something that you've heard about? Like what?
A little of
triggered
column
that?
A, a little of column B.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, if you do sci-fi, you've got to be able to imagine some different technologies, and I was able to do that. What I got the biggest laugh out of, I read sci-fi every now and then, certainly, but I'd never written it. And my editor had a lot of experience with sci-fi, and I was really grateful for her advice, because she was like, "Look, the wings don't go there. That's not how gravity works. Get him on the ground." Like it took a lot of editing to make me better respect the genre. Because I was like, oh, it's sci-fi. Everybody's floating. Why the heck not? And she was like, no, you're an idiot. Stop that. And I was, oh, okay, got it. So, and that's the nice thing about editing, is it helps really sharpen the book.
So how did you find your editor?
That was a process. So when you publish, there's basically 3 routes. You try to get an agent and get one of the big major publishers. I didn't have an agent for the first book, couldn't get an agent for the second one. Swing and a miss. Okay, fine. Then you can go to smaller presses. You find there's a bunch of websites. I use writersmarket.com. So you send a long, in-depth book proposal to publishers, and they say with, bio, chapter 2. If they like the proposal, they say, all right, send me the whole manuscript. So send the whole manuscript. I send it to Eliza Press. She said, all right, I like it. Send me the manuscript. And I always laugh about it, because you get dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of rejections, and you're like, oh, this is definitely, if you could tell from the first sentence. And I'll never forget, I sent her the manuscript, and I'm sitting in Harrisburg. I was in Harrisburg. I was in a diner. It was after a long night of session. I see the email. I'm like, oh, another rejection. Well, that doesn't read like oh my God. And it all kind of went from there.
It all clicked.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So how do you balance? I mean, you are so active. How do you balance the mental health, the being a lawmaker, being involved in your community, husband, father, friend,
Writer.
writing. I mean, you are everywhere all the time. How do you balance it? And what advice do you have for somebody who's trying to balance it better?
I haven't slept since the mid-90s, roughly. No, this is a passion. It's as simple as that. And if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, there's certain been no. I refuse to sacrifice anything job related. I don't. I'm not sitting at work doing book marketing. But in my spare time, such as it is, this is something that's fun for me, and I make the time. It's as simple as that. And given the demands of my job, it's an early morning, late night thing, and that's fine. That's what I asked for, and that's what I love doing. Yeah.
And I think when you suffer from any type of, or you're dealing with any type of mental illness, to find things that you're passionate about, that you really enjoy, is pivotal to your being able to overcome anytime you're going through a difficult mental health moment.
Yep, and it's the only way. And having something that you're passionate about, that absorbs you, that steals your attention away from the depression, and do something productive, is hugely important.
Hugely important.
Writing and Fraggle Rock.
Dance your cares away. Worries for sorry.
Mike loves Fraggle Rock. Right?
That I do. It's a dirty secret. All right, stop.
We've got it all out there now.
We're looking at my life's an open book.
Revealed on Sistah Chat.
So tell us, Mike, where do you see yourself going from here?
I love my job as a state representative. I have no plans on stopping as long as the people of the 132nd will have me, or I don't really want to move up. Like we had an open congressional seat, and I had no desire to run for it, and I didn't. This is a really good job for me. I've really been enjoying it. I also know I can't do it for 30 years. I don't know what comes next. I could see myself, whenever the people of the 132nd throw me out, becoming like a lobbyist for mental health or working for a mental health organization. I'm sure I will wind up speaking publicly more on the issue than I already do, or continuing, if I'm really lucky, I become a writer full time, though almost nobody does that except the most successful, and I'm not there.
What do you want people to take most away from the book?
That even if you suffer, even if it's you, if you treat your disease, if you deal with it head on, you can be a hero.
Absolutely.
That's how I always describe it. Anybody can be a hero no matter what they suffer from. I mean, without being too self-referential, like I've been on medication half my life, and I still speak publicly all the time. Like you can, if you deal with your stuff, you can get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. Holly's over there pointing at herself.
Pointing at herself, yeah.
That's the point.
But you
Yeah.
know what? I think it's all about us accepting who we are, where we are, and what issues we are dealing with. And then attack those issues head on. Don't stuff them in the closet. Don't deny them. This is what it is. So I need to empower myself and take responsibility for helping me to become the best me possible.
And neither of those things, denying or stuffing in the closet, work in the long run. You can't do it.
They don't.
Eventually, one way or the other, it spills out.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Mike, knowing you for several years, I can say personally that you have been a terrific voice, and forefront runner in talking about, mental health and mental illness and the stigma that is attached to it and ending that cycle.
Trying.
So, for everybody out there who has ever suffered, you have really been a great voice.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity. Can I plug it one more time?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So again, the book is called Redemption. My name is Mike Schlossberg. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can get the book on Amazon just by searching Redemption, or go to MikeSchlossbergAuthor.com, and you can buy it directly from me, and then I can sign it and ship it to you. So there you go.
Oh, that's great.
I hope
Awesome.
so.
That's
Yeah.
great. We want to thank you so much for coming
My
on
pleasure.
and
Thank
sharing your story with us. We also want to remind everyone that if you feel that you are in some way feeling depressed, or you have someone that you are concerned about, please do not hesitate to either dial 911, 211, or the National Suicide Helpline, which is 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. We also want to thank, again, Brokers Realty, who is an amazing real estate company here in the Schlossberg area and all over Pennsylvania, actually. So we want to thank them for always being such amazing sponsors and being so supportive of Sistah Chat. We want to have Mama C give her words of wisdom.
Well, today they're really in tune with our topic, as really they are every week. My words of wisdom for today read, you may be different, but you are immensely unique. Accept your difference and embrace your uniqueness. That's it.
Wow.
Now that's a mouthful in a few words. Can you
Very simple.
repeat that one more time,
more
Mama
time?
C?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
And I wrote that while we were sitting here conversating.
good.
That's how I allow my words of wisdom to come. So it reads again, you may be different, but you are immensely unique. Accept your difference and embrace your uniqueness. And I think this came out because when I was a kid, people always used to say to me, adults, you're different. And they used to say it in such a way that made it sound like there was something wrong with me. But when you're a teenager, all you want to do is get in and fit in. You want to fit in. You don't want to be different. You don't want nobody telling you you're different. I want to be like everybody else. But once you understand that that we're all different and that we're all unique, and we embrace that, life becomes a true magnificent journey.
Well, love thyself, then love others, right?
Love thyself. You can't love others until you love thyself. And that's the reality. Everybody's out there trying to love somebody else when they don't even know themselves. They haven't gotten to learn how to love themselves fully. Once you learn how to do that, you no longer are put in a position where people take advantage of you. They use and abuse you because you can read them. You can sense them. You feel them. You know whether or not their love for you is genuine because that energy just comes at you. And that's so important.
That's
Love yourself
beautiful.
first.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the most important lesson
Absolutely.
of life.
Yeah.
And it's so hard for so many people to actually sit down and figure out how to love themselves.
and embrace themselves.
You have to
Yeah.
unpack all that garbage that you're carrying
Yep.
around first.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, embrace
Absolute-
it.
Yep.
Believe it and be it.
Absolutely. No matter what's happened to you. When I started talking about being an incest survivor and a rape survivor at age 19, like you said, I felt a weight just come off my shoulder. And I just kept talking about it. I just kept telling people. And when I became a public speaker, when I was director of Women's Health Services, I would go out, and when I talked to large groups of women, I could always spot the ones who were either incest survivors or had been raped or both or whatever. And they would come up to me at the end of the program, and I would help segue them into services so that they can begin their healing process, because that's so important. You can't walk around with that stuff, like something's wrong with you, or that nobody should love you because these things have happened. These are things, again, that happen to you. They are not who you are.
Right. Well,
Yes,
thank
you
you
can't
for
let
your
it
beautiful
define you.
words tonight, Mama C.
Thank you, sweetie pie.
And thanks again, Mike.
And my pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Mike. We want to remind everyone again about our second annual Mother's Day Tea. It is on May 4th at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort, right here in the lovely Shawnee area. If you are interested in joining us, it is $35 for adult. It's $25 for kids. And if you are interested in having a table of 8, it is $250. You can sign up on our social media. So reach out on Facebook and you can sign up for the tea. We also are taking a limited number of vendor tables. They are $50 each for the vendor fair. We are going to be having a high tea. We're going to have entertainment. In fact, Christina Lenaway just agreed to come and sing a couple of her songs. And we are in partnership with Women's United. So it's going to be a great day because it's going to not only benefit a charity of our choice, but it's also going to be such a great time for all of us. We also want to remind you that it's not too late to join Dr. T, Alex, and Jen for the Lehigh Valley Health Network Healthy Lifestyle.
Yes, the next one is February 12th at 6 p.m. at the ESU Abeloff Auditorium.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Oh, and Alex is showing us off his svelte self. Woohoo! Dr. T's whipping you into shape there.
Oh boy, does he give us the motivation and inspiration to get through the week.
I'm sure he does.
And that's fabulous. Just what we need.
Yes.
It's also not too late to donate to the Valentine's Day shoebox that Women's United is gathering for all of the single moms in this area. They have reached out to us and told us that they are 20 boxes short. So they need 20 more boxes as soon as possible. We will definitely post all of the information on our Facebook page. So please make sure if you want to donate, if you want to give back, if it's just a calling for you and a tugging at your heart, please make sure to make a box for a single mom this year. You can put in some nice little niceties that, we don't always buy for ourselves. So, make sure to do that.
As a single mom, I can say that, and Sarah, you can speak to this, and Mama C is a single grandma. You can speak to this. How nice,
Well,
just to get that little piece of love from somebody that doesn't know you as a single mom.
Well, single moms have a tendency to not buy things for themselves because they're always, giving to their kids or paying for a bill or doing something else. So, to treat yourself is unusual. So this is a way for Women's United to gather the community together to do something nice for single moms. We also want to remind all of you that if you are someone that follows Sistah Chat, we have a new show called Get Seen in the Poconos. We just unveiled our new jingle this evening, and we are so thrilled because, we are just going gangbusters. We have all of our card exchanges signed up until August. So if you are interested in being one of the businesses that would like people to come and see your business and, have a card exchange, it's free. You just need to reach out to us either through sistahchatradio@gmail.com or getseeninthepoconos@gmail.com. And please make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also want to let you know that we have been sharing some amazing music from unsigned artists in the area, musicians. And if you are an unsigned musician and would like us to play your music, please contact us. Again, sistahchatradio@gmail.com or getseeninthepoconos@gmail.com. Tonight we have been playing music by Andrew Moses. He's going to be at the Renegade on Thursday evenings, so please make sure to check it out because it's amazing. And we also have some music that has been playing by Christina Lenaway. So, it's not too late to get your music out there, and we'll be glad to share it. Just reach out to us. We want to thank you again for joining us this evening. We want to thank Mike Schlossberg
pleasure. Thank
for
you.
coming
Thank you so
and
much.
My
sharing
pleasure.
his story. We hope that you all reach out, purchase his book. Again, Mike, how does someone get a hold of it?
Search it on Amazon or MikeSchlossbergAuthor.com, and you can find me on social media real easily and shoot me any questions that you want.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
It's been such a great show.
Yes, it has been.
Thank you, everybody.
We want to thank you so much for sharing your story. Sometimes it's not easy to be transparent, and it's really so important
Yes,
that
it
we
is.
all learn how to do that. I
Yeah.
know Mama C and I have, spilled our stories about everything to everyone, but that's why we're out here, because we want to help you, our listeners, to have a better life, because that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. You know?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks.
Redemption was really a nice read.
Well, thank you.
We want to thank Ramel Taylor for being such an awesome guy behind the board. He's the one that makes sure that we're on air every week. And we are so happy to be here at WSMR 100 FM. And if you ever have any questions about how you can do what we do, you can always reach out to us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We will be here next Thursday evening. Get Seen in the Poconos from 6:30 to 10 minutes of 7, and then Sistah Chat from 7 to 8. So if you haven't gone online and you haven't liked us, please make sure you do that tonight. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Sistah Chat on WSMR 100 FM.
All right.
Sistah Chat Radio. Turn us on, enjoy the show. Membership for yourself.
Regardless religion, your status, your goals, it's where everyone grows from what everyone knows.
Sistah Chat Radio. Turn us on, enjoy the show. Membership for
Your
yourself.
purpose, your passion, yes, we can discuss. Designed just for you, yeah, you can trust us. Trust us. Trust us.